All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. If you have not met myself, if you haven't seen me yet, my name is John Kunz. I'm the Director of Upper School Admission at St. Stephen's and St. Agnes School. Welcome to our third edition of our virtual information session series. Tonight, we're focusing on our English department, and we're going to lay out our curriculum and some of the highlights within our program. So we're very excited to have you here tonight. A reminder that this session is being recorded and will be moved to our website after the webinar session is over. And we'll also be offering you the opportunity later in this session to ask questions. And so during that time frame, you will be able to add questions into the chat box. But without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn it over to our English department chair, Ms. Cranford. Ms. Cranford?
Hi, I'm Mika Cranford. I'm the Upper School English Department Chair, and welcome to our virtual curriculum night. So to get us started, I thought I would give us just a little bit of a flavor of what an English class at SSSAS looks like. There is a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of analysis, but there's also some creative work as well. We practice, because of the nature of English classes, a flipped classroom in many ways. So students at home are doing the reading and some of the thinking, and then they come to class and we discuss and they build off of their peers' thinking and writing, and we deepen that knowledge. Today, the classes look very similar, although more socially distanced. A lot of the collaboration and the writing on boards, for example, is taking place online, but the core of the class is very similar to what it has been. So there are, these are a set of transfer goals. So every student in an SSSAS English class would be practicing these skills. At the upper school, we kind of divide it into three ways. So we look at sort of the reading skills, I guess. So that's the analysis, the close analysis. Sometimes at the 9th grade level, we also look at annotation. How do we start with engaging a text? And then we look at the writing aspects, the expressive aspects. How do we communicate effectively? We spend a lot of time talking about the writing process and understanding that it takes time. And then understanding the value of literature and its power and its historical power as well. So in upper school English, I wanted to highlight a few things about this approach. So we have a writing forward approach. We teach writing to think. So the idea is that as you write, you form and refine your thoughts. And so we do a lot of low stakes writing. So students do what we might call pre-writing. And so they just brainstorm with writing. They do a lot of reflective writing or process writing, where they look back at their writing in the past or an activity that they've just done and consider how that worked. As I said before, we do a lot of the revision process and the drafting process to help students understand that writing takes time, and writing well takes a lot of practice. So students write in a lot of different styles and forms. We do creative writing, analytical writing, personal writing, reflective writing. Students are asked to write for summative assessments in addition to doing more formative work. So writing is something that we value a lot as a tool, not just for students in English classes, but beyond. The next part of this that I wanted to talk about was the new voices and the canonical texts. So we try and give students a flavor of where things have come from and then where things are going, if that makes sense. So we have our Shakespeare. All the students in 10th grade this year are looking at the history of the English language and understanding how it was shaped, and then also how it is currently being shaped. And then we also bring in new voices in each year. And so who are some of the more modern influential writers that it might benefit students to read? To that end, we also look at 21st century skills and literacy. Students more than ever are being bombarded by images. So we look at image analysis. We look at comics and graphic novels. Students in 11th grade all do a film project. There are options for film classes in 12th grade as well. And then outside of the classroom, we do a number of interdepartmental collaborations. We've done a few with history, a few with art. Hopefully there'll be some with science in the future. We have theater visits. So the entire 10th grade and the entire 11th grade classes all go to see a play. Again, that's gonna look a little bit differently this year than it has in the past, but it will hopefully go forward. And then there are opportunities for students to get involved in writing beyond the classroom as well. So there are one acts are for if they're interested in writing drama. Fire and Stones is our arts and literary magazine, so students who are interested in doing creative writing. The Voice is our newspaper, so that would be for more journalistic writing. And then there are events like Coffee House where students can write and perform their own original work. In addition to that, we also have a visiting poet who comes in during 10th grade and works with the students for a week on writing poems, which is a nice chance to look at what does a poet look like today. So a course overview in 9th grade, all students take English 9. This is to make sure that students have the same platform, no matter what school they've come from when they start. The 9th grade year is centered around the theme of identity. Students are entering into a new phase in their education with high school. They're maybe starting to look ahead to college, to where they want to be, who they want to be, where they want to go. So the idea of identity works quite well with the 9th graders. Each of the years is structured around a theme or an idea. There are a few core texts that all the teachers agree on, and we reevaluate them every year. And then the theme provides some structure for teachers to build upon that, those core texts and that theme with other supplemental works. In 10th grade, the theme is movement. So this is movement of people and movement of ideas, and it's a more global perspective than the 9th grade one. There are two options for English 10. There's English 10 and then English 10 Honors. English 10 Honors is a more intensive version of English 10. It moves at a faster pace, and it does not provide the same level of scaffolding that English 10 does. 11th grade is a survey of American literature. So once again, there's English 11, and then there's AP English Language and Composition, which is one of the two APs that we offer for English. A note about English 10 Honors and AP English Language and Composition is that anybody can apply for them. The students sit for an essay and have a teacher recommendation. And that there is no requirement that students have to be in English 10 Honors to go into AP English Language and Composition. Likewise, the students in English 10 Honors all still have to apply if they want to be in AP English Language and Composition. And we do find that there's quite a bit of movement between, for example, English 10 and AP English Language and Composition. 12th grade is a little bit more fun and interesting. 12th grade, we have senior seminars. And what that means is English is not a year-long course, although students are required to take a year of English. It is instead broken up into semesters. So students will take one semester of one class and one semester of another class. So students can choose to take AP English Literature and Composition, which is our other AP that's offered in addition to an English seminar. Senior year, they also have the opportunity to double up, so they can take multiple seminars if they're interested in doing a little extra English. A note about the senior seminars. So these are some of the offerings that we've had in the past. The senior seminars are pitched by the teachers to the juniors, and the juniors decide which ones they're most interested in taking. And then they sign up for the classes, and based on their preferences, we work with the scheduling over the summer to try and make sure they're in one of their choices for the seminars. The idea behind the seminars is that students have spent 3 years working on their core skills and taking and reading a lot of similar literature for each year based around those 3 themes that we looked at. And the senior year is a chance for them to explore what's interesting to them and to develop their reading and writing and critical thinking in an area that sparks a lot of a thought for them. We are preparing them for a college education in which they'll have an opportunity to pursue courses that fit with their interests. With that said, we have a few students with us today who are going to share some of their perspectives and some of their favorite activities or texts that they've done in English classes. So we have Marina, who's from the class of 23, Amanda from the class of 22, and then Christian and Anna, who are both seniors today. So Marina, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marina and I'm a sophomore. And right now I'm taking English 10 honors. My favorite text that I've read in the upper school so far was probably one of the texts that I had to read for summer reading this year, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Even though it was a more complicated read than most of the books I've read in the past, I really enjoyed it because I think it was really interesting to see how much has changed for women in the last 100 years. And yeah. And I also really enjoyed reading Sing and Buried Sing from last year in English. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the workload because I know that's always something that students are interested in knowing about going into any class. So I feel that the workload is pretty manageable as long as you plan ahead and try not to let it pile up. For me, I think that I have a pretty busy schedule. I do 12 hours of gymnastics a week as well as school sports each season, so I don't have too much free time. So some days I would go from school to practice to another practice and not have too much time to do homework. But I think that really pushed me how to figure out how to manage my time well. And even with all of that, I still think that the workload was manageable. I think students really have to try and not procrastinate, even though I understand that sometimes that's really difficult. But it's also really important to take advantage of your study halls and the time that teachers give you to work so that you don't end up with a whole pile of work to do. And then I think it's also really important to remember that your teachers aren't trying to kill you and they don't want you to be stressed. And especially in the upper school, if you communicate that you're stressed about something, they will usually be very understanding and try and figure out a way to work through it with you, as long as they see that you're putting an effort in your work and putting in an effort to communicate with them. And that's been really important transitioning from middle school to high school because there is definitely more work. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a junior. I currently take AP English Language and Composition. My favorite text, I think that's kind of a hard question because I liked a lot of the books I've read in high school so far, but my favorite I would say was Black No More, a book I read last year. It was just kind of a different genre than books that I usually read, and I thought there were some really interesting themes in it, and I really enjoyed discussing it with my class. I was also new my freshman year, and I think that, well, English has always been one of my stronger classes, but I think that even if it hadn't been, the transition would have been pretty smooth because I think freshman year English really kind of went over, like, gave you a really good foundation in how to write an analytical essay or like really just how to write anything and how to analyze a text. And like, annotate and stuff like that. And I think that was really beneficial for me and then like everyone else, obviously. But another thing that was really helpful in the transition from a new school and like a different English program was having my teacher as a resource. They are always available to meet with you, which I have found to be really helpful, especially in English. So yeah, I think that's really nice. And then also class discussions I found to be really beneficial because lots of the time we have really like fruitful discussions in class about things that I didn't pick up on when I read the book at home. And that proves to be really helpful when I'm like writing an essay about the book. So I think that's nice as well.
Thanks, Amanda. Kristen?
My name is Christian. I'm a senior, and I'm taking AP English Literature. And I gotta say, my favorite text was Black No More, but I read that 2 years ago, so we were the OGs. The reason it's my favorite text is because like it's such an interesting social commentary, and for those who don't know, it's about it's like back in the 1930s. That's when they create a machine that can turn Black people white, and it's just it was definitely my most interesting read. But my favorite project in English was junior year when we were able to do a commercial because we had been studying cinematography and we had been studying the devices and the strategies you use. And that was by far my favorite because I love movies and I love the techniques that go into the movies, like low angle, high angle, crane shot, all those type of things. And so we were actually able to like have a group, like be in a group with our friends and like actually use those techniques to create a commercial and like create something that was good and that we could show our understanding, and that you also had a lot of freedom and direction. And I love the freedom you get when you are able to do assignments. And I would say looking over, so I'm gonna address, the first thing I'm gonna address though is the workload for all you students coming in thinking, okay, for all 4 years, how's the workload? And honestly, if you had to go from like on a scale of like the craziest classes where you're getting assigned like, you know, hour and a half each night to like the lightest classes where you might get assigned homework once a week, it's probably in the middle. Okay. English is not a deal breaker class. It's not going to make or break your schedule per se, because you're definitely going to have a harder class on there, but it's not easy because you got to really read the text and you got to really be able to understand it. But that's where the teachers come in, because the teachers, they're really understanding and they want you to succeed. I know a lot of people say that, but the thing is, I ended up meeting with the teacher, you know, quite a few times over the years, because if I don't understand something, then I'm not just going to sit there and get a bad grade on it. And they don't want you to do that either. Because if you meet with them, they're like, yeah, I was expecting you to talk to me. And they really help you work through it. So it's definitely something where you're going to be growing in terms of, you know, writing and reading. And you just have to essentially just try.
Thanks, Kristen. Anna.
So hi, I'm Anna. I'm a senior, and I'm also in AP Lit this year. One of my favorite texts that we read, I think it would have to be one of the short stories we read in AP Lang last year called The Yellow Wallpaper, just because it was so emotionally moving in such a short amount of text. And I really appreciated that, how the author managed to achieve that. And I think one of my favorite projects it was kind of a year-long project with Dr. Klein in 10th grade. She had us all write about 4 journals every semester or every quarter. And it was really just a place where you could really write about anything and just kind of express yourself in a lot of different ways. So like Amanda, I was new to St. Stephen's in 9th grade. And I would say the transition went pretty smoothly. It was definitely more rigorous than middle school English, at least for me it was. But the teachers really prepared you for all of the sort of things that you're going to need for the next 4 years of English. And they were really just there to help you to do anything that you needed help with. Like helped you with writing, if you had a question about something, or if you were confused about something in the text. They were just really there to make sure you were doing okay. So one thing I'd like to address is additional opportunities for writing and creative writing outside of the English classroom. So I'm part of Fire and Stones this year, and last year I was the communications director. And Fire and Stones is a art and literary magazine. So we take submissions from all across the high school for student created art and writing, and we compile it into two issues every year. And I think it's really amazing to see all of the writing that students have done, both in and outside of the classroom, come together with beautiful pieces of art twice every year.
Thank you very much, Anna. So I think we'll open up the floor to questions. I know Mr. Coons has a few that he can throw out, and if anybody else has any questions and answers, or well, any questions, feel free to throw them out there too.
Thank you, Ms. Cranford. I do have a few questions to get us going here. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, please do feel free to add a question into the chat. If you'd like for us to field that question, we'll be happy to do so. My first question is, I know that a couple of you talked about the workload, and I think some of us it would be great to hear a little bit about the amount of writing that you actually do in some of your classes would be one part of the question. And then maybe you could also talk about a piece of writing that you feel most proud about, maybe a project or assignment that you completed. So if we can have maybe a couple of you talk a little bit about the amount of writing and also a particular piece of writing that you're proud of, that would be great.
I mean, I'll start. In terms of the amount of writing, I feel like it depends on the class you take, because if you're in regular English, well, if you're in regular English for most of the time, then like I know you don't do as much writing as when you're in like AP or honors. And so I've been in honors for 10th grade and then an AP for last year and this year. So I've had to write consistently. And at first, it's definitely something that you got to get used to, because I came in from middle school and I was the type of person who did not like writing papers, who did not like putting my arguments on paper, because I just couldn't get like the organization of my argument right, or the wording or the delivery. And it was very stressful and anxious whenever someone told me like, oh, you got to do a paper, you got to do a report. But the way they work with you, they get you to actually like analyze what you do, what you could do better. So when you actually get to the point where you're like a junior or a senior and you have to write something, like you have to write 1 or 2 page paper, you can knock it out easy. Oh, and then you want me to say something I'm proud of. A paper that comes to mind that I like is when we had to write compare and contrast with the themes of Black No More and the themes of the movie Get Out. And like I said, I told you I love movies, so I was able to analyze Get Out, and then Black No More is my favorite book, so I was able to analyze those two, and so that was definitely my most proud piece of work.
I would say that you asked about the workload. I think or how much you write. I think it varies depending on what teacher you have, because you'll get different kinds of assignments. But like last year, I didn't do as much writing as I have this year already. But in general, you'll just write an essay, or you'll have some sort of writing assignment for every text that you read. But this year, I don't know if it's because I'm in distance learning, but there's a lot more like small writing assignments, like creative writing assignments, and like smaller English or smaller writing assignments to do. But they're all like pretty manageable. And then you have a lot of time to write your essays usually. And you have also lots of opportunities to meet with your teacher during the time where you're writing your essay, which is also helpful. And then for an assignment that I really enjoyed. I also really enjoyed the one that Christian talked about, but mine was slightly different. I compared the film Get Out and the This Is America music video, which I thought was really fun. But my other favorite assignment that I had to do was freshman year when we were reading a book called The House on Mingo Street, which was written in the form of vignettes. So we had to write our own personal vignettes, and I thought that was really fun because I was doing like personal writing, which I thought was fun because I was at that point I was used to writing pretty much only analytical things. So it was a new form of writing for me at the time, which was really fun to explore.
I think that pretty much everything that Amanda and Christian said about the workload kind of encapsulates everything. But I think just one of the pieces that I'm the most proud of was my summer reading essay from this past summer, because it was an analytical piece, but I was actually able to connect it to a TikTok that I saw, and I kind of made an analogy about kind of the power cycles and the marginalization of women from connecting it to a TikTok, so I could kind of combine an analytical piece with something that I felt passionate about, which I thought was pretty cool.
I agree completely. The workload, with all they said about the workload, I think more specifically, it's usually at least one major paper or project for every book that you read, and then there's some additional different kinds of writing throughout the year. And one of the pieces of writing I'm most proud of was one of the journals I wrote in 10th grade. And they were creative journals, so they were kind of different than the analytical papers that I'd been used to writing. And towards the end of the year, I'd gotten more confident in my creative writing, and I actually used one of the pieces as my college application essay. So, yeah.
Thanks to all of you for fielding that question. Another question that I think that a lot of our families might typically ask, and Marina touched on this momentarily, but summer reading and summer assignments. Can you answer? Can you talk a little bit about what you typically do during the summer for English?
I can start. Usually you have to read 1 or 2 books over the summer, and then I believe it's just for honors classes and AP classes that you have to have something written by the first day of school. And there's a prompt that you follow that's posted online in the summer, and you write your essay before school. And then I think for regular tracked courses, you write your essay at the beginning of the school year. So usually you just have to read 1 or 2 books. Like this summer, I read a book called Ceremony. That was the only book I had to read, and I had to write an essay about it. Oh, I forgot the prompt, but Ceremony was actually a really interesting book. I usually don't enjoy my summer reading, but I actually enjoyed it this time.
I'll say this: summer reading is not bad if you like space it out and tackle it periodically, because yeah, like Amanda said, you usually get assigned to maybe 3 books you have to read, and then if you're, like you said, going into an honors course or AP course, that's when you have to write something over the summer. But even still, it's not like a whole lot. It's maybe like 3 or 4 pages max. So it's definitely very manageable, and it's not like a huge thing that has to weigh over you the entire summer.
Thanks, everyone. A question that might be a little bit more appropriate for Ms. Cranford. One question that sometimes we hear is why there is not an honors class in 9th grade. And then what needs to be done in order for a student to qualify for for an honors class and possibly an AP class as well?
Hi. So the ninth grade year is sort of a reset year. Students are entering into high school, so it's a new school, new expectations. A lot of students are coming not from St. Stephen's and St. Agnes Middle School, but from other middle schools. And so we like to use ninth grade as a place to kind of reset for students and to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to the expectations around writing and around reading. And then from there, and that also gives the opportunity for students to work on whatever skills they need a little bit more support on, so that by the end of their ninth grade year, maybe they didn't come in as strong in analytical skills, but they've cottoned onto it really quickly. And so by the end, they're ready to make that jump to the honors course if they would like. The honors application, students indicate their interest, and then they sit for a timed essay. That's a 45-minute essay on a poem. And when students are being evaluated, that is an example of their writing, but of course that's not the only thing that qualifies a student for an AP or an honors level. We look at the scope of their writing over the year. We ask students to maintain high excellence with their grades. So we're looking really for somewhere between in the A range, but students who have a B+ are considered still. We're looking for students who are interested, students who demonstrate an interest in the course in one way or another, students who participate actively, who are positive members of a class. So all of those components come into play when we try to evaluate where the right fit would be for that student. Because sometimes the right fit is actually a little bit more scaffolding in 10th grade English before moving to AP.
Thank you, Ms. Cranford. And our final question, going back to our students, and this might be a little bit unfair for our younger students here on the call, but I think a lot of our parents would like to know, and our students, our prospective students would like to know as well, how do you feel that the English program is preparing you for college and your ability to communicate? Can you talk a little bit about what you think and how you are being prepared for college based off of your experience so far?
All right, I'll take this one. I'm gonna be honest, I feel pretty good because English makes you really focus on close reading and not just like, Shakespeare and whatnot, but just any text in general. So when you have to start reading stuff, like you get to a textbook and you read some tricky words, or you get to like, even if you think about being a lawyer or something, you got to get to a professional contract agreement. It's like teaching you how to figure out how to navigate those texts and the nuances and everything, so you can really pick up on the different meanings. So that way, even if you don't know the wording of something, you have an idea of what it could mean. And then on top of that, with the writing portion, between English and history, they'll have you get your writing straight. Like, you are gonna be analyzing things and you're gonna be having to talk about things and form arguments. So only naturally your writing is gonna get a lot better. And I mean, I have a brother in college and he tells me what the stuff is like, and I'm feeling good. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would add on to that. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, how I used one of my journals as part of my college application. It definitely prepares you for getting ready to get to college, and sort of it helps you like evolve your writing style into a more sophisticated, better version of itself from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade, so that once you're getting ready to go to college, you're really prepared for, I would say, the rigor and the what's expected of you in college.
Well, thanks to both of you, and I wish that we could give you an applause right now, maybe a virtual applause, but we thank you students for fielding those questions. That was very well done. Um, if we could move to the next slide, please. So now that we've kind of had a chance for you to learn a little bit more about our wonderful English program led by our wonderful Miss Cranford, our department chair, and her fantastic students, wanted to make sure that you are aware of some of the next steps and some of the additional opportunities that will be coming your way. Of course, one of the focus points will always be for you to schedule your virtual or on-campus tour. We offer both including Saturday tours as well on specific Saturday dates. Also, make sure that you find an opportunity to schedule your student interview. And just remember, you can actually self-schedule both of those opportunities. Both the tour and the interview is something that you can self-schedule in your mySSSAS.org account. Our next webinar series virtual session will be the STEM information session that will be held on November 5th, and that will be at 7 p.m. as well. So we're excited to unveil our STEAM lab during that session. And of course, you can begin by submitting some of your supporting documents as you see listed there, and a gentle reminder to the excitement of the students that are applying this year that the testing this year is going to be waived, so you do not have to take the SSAT. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, and just to wrap things up, future admission events, as you know, the STEM Open House, the virtual webinar is coming up on the 5th, followed by the All School Episcopal Identity webinar. And then we have a number of other virtual sessions coming your way throughout the remainder of this admission cycle. If you have any questions about our future admission events, you will find our contact information below. Feel free to reach out anytime, and we will move to the last slide. And if you are interested in learning anything more about the English program, you can definitely email Ms. Cranford. Her email address is listed here. And if you have any questions for our students that were in attendance this evening, she would be more than happy to share their email addresses to you as well. So thanks again for joining us tonight for our English information virtual series session, and we are glad that you were able to make it, and we will make sure that you are able to see this webinar since it is recorded soon. So have a great night, and thanks again for attending.